So, good afternoon. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. I'm great.
Great. So, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month,
Yes, it is.
and you are a great advocate of sexual assault awareness.
Yes.
And so, tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to be an advocate for sexual assault awareness.
Okay, so 15 years ago, sorry, not 15, I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When a friend of mine and I skipped school. It was sports day. We skipped school to go over some boy's house that I had met over one of the old social media sites. Um, and everything was great, fun and games and all of that until we were in a room by ourselves, which I didn't feel uncomfortable in. I didn't feel uncomfortable. That's the best term I could use. Um, and we made out a bit and we fondled and, all of that stuff that teenage people do until it went too far, and there was a point where I knew one, I didn't know this guy too well. I had literally only met him the once, the day that I skipped school and went to his house. And my friend was in the living room with a bunch of his friends, and it just it went from a good situation to a horrible one, and I was left scarred for life from that situation. Um, and for a long time, I blamed myself. For years, I blamed myself. I ran out of this man's house with my friend trailing behind me, trying to catch me up, trying to figure out why I was so upset, trying to figure out what happened, and to be honest, I don't even remember the rest of the day. I just remember walking, I'm leaving. Like, that's all I cared about, was leaving and getting as far away from this person's house as possible. But because I made the choice to skip school, because I made the choice to visit a person or meet a person that I had never met in such an intimate setting, because I had um, allowed the fondling, because I allowed the makeout session, I blamed myself for him raping me. Like, I blamed myself for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wouldn't have done it if I would have said no, if I wouldn't have gone, if I would have just gone to sports day like everybody else, if I would have just, you know what I mean? Like, it was a fight for many years,
And what was your turning point in your mind to say that, wait, actually, this wasn't my fault. Actually, I consented to this and this, but I didn't consent to this. And that's how I ended up being raped.
I was able to articulate that as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was in my mid-20s when I was able to articulate, it's not my fault. And here's why it's not my fault. You know, but there's a level of shame and guilt and humiliation that comes with it. I wasn't able to fight him off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was mad at my friend because even though rationally speaking, she was where big boombox music was, she wouldn't have heard me. I felt she should have. You know what I mean? That's why you go with friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go with a buddy system because you're safer in numbers. And you would think because he had his friends there, again, you're safer in numbers. But that wasn't the case, and I it took me a long time to be able to articulate my feelings. Um, I met a stranger once who expressed to me her story, and she she helped me feel okay about my story because I wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just felt it was a part of my life that I needed to pack and tuck away as far as possible. Like, don't think about it. Like, I didn't travel that road because he lived on it. Like, I couldn't tell you where he stayed today.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I was concerned, he could have, that may not have even been his house.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
it could have been one of his friends' house. But as far as I was concerned, that's where it happened. I'm not trying to go anywhere close. You know what I mean? So it was difficult.
So over the years that you tucked it away and you tried to hide it, did you have any repercussions still within yourself?
Oh yes.
Physically or mentally?
Emotionally. Yes.
Yeah.
This stranger that I met, she said something to me that didn't make any sense at the time, and it wasn't until, I would say, after the fact, that it was like, wow, wait. And she was like, you, unfortunately, with rape, the victim goes one out of two ways. You either shall and go into yourself. You stay at home. You don't really socialize. You have very little friends. You go into a cocoon of yourself, and you try to keep the entire world away from you.
Your protective shell.
You go into a protective shell, exactly. Or you invite the entire world in and get lost in the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I got lost in my chaos. I became aggressive and defiant even. I shifted. I've always had friends. I've always been social. So it wasn't odd for me to dive deeper into my social activities. But how I went about it, you know what I mean? It was, okay, well, instead of me having five after school programs, I still got those five, but now I'm got social lives with those five, and I had different pockets of friends, and I drank. Ooh,
So you were using
I
social
drank.
to quiet the voices in your own head
Mhm.
because you can be busy,
Yep.
and then the drinking can numb everything.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
When I met my boyfriend, I used to tell him, I have a pocket full of faces, and I got lost in it. I like getting lost in the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize at that point what that meant. I just felt, I like going out and partying and being on go all the time. Like, that is just me. That's who I am. You either like it or lump it. But that's Christine. And it wasn't until our relationship became, I would say, it was a deeper connected relationship, that I realized, okay, I don't want to go out. Maybe this is who I wanted to be, but didn't know how to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet time. Who wants quiet time? And the voices in your head are just going nonstop, because quiet time means you think. And if you think, it means
The ghosts come.
oh boy. And when you have quiet time, you have to look at yourself and not the clown face that you put on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in my mid-20s when I was able to unearth those feelings, and I was able to look at myself in the mirror. And it took me looking at myself in the mirror morning after morning and saying to myself, it's not your fault. And it was a struggle. It was something like, it felt stupid. It did. It felt stupid. Like, why are you talking to yourself? Crazy people talk to themselves. You know what I mean? But I had to do it, and sometimes I still do, because it's not my fault.
Right.
It's not my fault that this happened. And because of everything that happened up to that point, up until the moment that choice was taken from me, it was my choice. So because of that, I felt everything after the choice was taken was still my fault. And it's taken me a life to wrap my head around not only my emotions, but how I felt about my past. Not that particular situation, but everything from then to now,
Mhm.
I've had to grapple with. I've had to say, yo, you did a lot. You did a lot in a short amount of time. Because
You were running.
I was running. I was running for myself.
Yes.
I was running for myself, and as long as I was on a run,
You didn't have to consider and think about
no,
what you didn't want to put on the table.
no, not at all.
Yeah.
And Bermuda's small.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how small it is until you sober up and you face the reality of the situation. And when I say I drank,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like a lot.
Understood.
From 15.
Wow. And so
Like I was taking thermoses of liquor to school.
Wow.
And drinking in class.
I'm glad you shared that. Thank you.
Because I did not want to feel that. I did not want to. I wasn't able to function without it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there was a time where I didn't have anything to do, or I wasn't drinking, or I was a hot mess.
And how did you sober up? Or when did you sober up?
I wouldn't say I really sobered up. I just tapered off.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in my early 20s, my mid 20s, my late 20s, I was still drinking heavily.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it wasn't as much as I was doing. So I would say from 17 through about 24, I was probably drinking a bottle of vodka a day. Polishing, like
Mm-hmm.
from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I would go through a bottle of vodka. I would have vodka in the morning. I would have vodka with my lunch. I would have vodka for afternoon snack. And then the nighttime, you just
And you were able to function.
I was able to function perfectly fine. Nobody, whether they knew or they didn't, I was never reprimanded or brought to the carpet or anything like that. I was never what people would consider a messy drunk. I was a functioning alcoholic. And it ran along with my pocket full of faces. It ran along with, it kept me at bay. It kept everything that had been building at bay. It's like, just stay over there and we're okay.
And that's how you tucked it away.
Yep. I tucked it away in alcohol and sex.
Uh-huh.
And it sounds like an oxymoron, This is what led you to sex, really? How does that make any sense? But the reality is it makes all the sense, because that was the control he took from me, right? That was the thing that you took. So afterwards, it became, if I was in any type of situation where I thought it would possibly go that direction, I chose that direction before it could be taken from me.
Understood.
Because I'm not about to let anybody take anything from me again, and I found myself in many situations that I look back and I'm like, Jesus, why? But the reality is that because I was not in a mental space of being able to consciously make decisions that weren't based in trauma, I allowed my trauma to make my decisions. I allowed that incident, that occasion to guide me into situations that I probably wouldn't have. The alcohol didn't help.
Right.
The alcohol definitely didn't help, but...
And it gave you that feeling that, yes, this is okay, and I can say yes to this, and I can direct this.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of people in my past would be like, oh, wow, I was one of those choices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some be happy, some may not. But um, I I did a lot in a short period of time, and even in my relationship now, I have tried to be honest with myself and honest with my feelings and honest with my healing, and that didn't come lightly.
And that's where it really starts, is being honest with ourselves.
Right, it doesn't come lightly, and a good chunk of my healing has come due to other people's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is important.
Explain that further.
Growing up, you heard different stories about, your parents teach you, oh, don't get good body system, right? Whatever the case may be. Or you hear about rape or assault and this way and that way and so on and so forth. Like you hear about these things, but you don't may not even know anybody who's going through something similar. Or because they are shameful themselves, or because they're going through an own side of trauma, you may know 10 people, but you don't know that they're going through whatever. So there's a loneliness to it because you're not wanting to share, which means nobody else around you is willing to share.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like you're alone.
Mm-hmm.
You feel by yourself. Nobody understands what you're going through. Nobody understands your pain. You don't even understand what you're going through or your pain.
And you don't want to.
And
you
talk it away. That's why you talk it away. And you don't realize how lonely it is until somebody comes along. You're like, thank God I'm not this by myself. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like you're welcoming other people's trauma, right? You're welcoming it, like, yes, tell me more. Like it's this weird sensation, right? When you learn, especially if it's someone close to you, when you learn that they've gone through something similar. Mm-hmm. Whether theirs was more traumatic, less traumatic, it wasn't. It feels better, mm-hmm. right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you finally found someone who has been through a similar situation with you.
Exactly.
And so, okay, I can open up to you because you understand. We share. Yes.
You understand. Whether you went on the same road as me or not, whether you experience similar situation, like I'm not alone in this. Mm-hmm. And it helped me to open up. And I would say probably about my mid-20s is when I started actually talking to people about it. And then it started, I started to meet people that had been through similar situations, or I would just randomly tell my friends that this happened to me when I was 15. And they're like, oh, wow, this happened to me when I was, or wow, remember when? Wow, that's when I was like, wow, and I realized then that it helped to open up. And I didn't do anything with that. It was just, if it came up, it came up. I wasn't closed to the conversation, but for the most part, I didn't bring it up. You know what I mean? I didn't go out to seek people to express my trauma and vice versa. But if the topic was up, then I used my trauma as an example, or what I went through as a to articulate my point. Mm-hmm. But a couple years ago, someone very close to me went through something, and I was advocating for them to seek help, mm-hmm. and to report and to like go gung-ho, almost envious, like, because I was like, well, you can do this. Like you,
And we do that. We have all this energy for everybody.
for
else.
everybody else. And then I was like, well, if I do it, you're gonna do it too.
Mm.
And that
turns on you.
that's a question,
Mm-hmm.
because at that point, my thing was like 10 years old,
Mhm.
50, almost 15 years old. What are you talking? Wait, what do you mean you want me to do this with you? Like mine's yours is fresh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yours is new.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you? Why would I? You know, but
Because that wasn't ever a consideration.
No,
for you
it was
to
never
do.
a consideration for me. Like I will support you through yours.
Yes,
But we're not talking about me,
because I'm still
right?
talking although I'm sharing, a bit of mine is
Exactly.
still tucked away.
And I am in no way a therapist, but that would be like the therapist going through something and talking about, oh well, let's do this for you. Well, what are you going to do?
Yes.
You know, so I had to take another hard look at myself and be like, you can do this.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be right here with you while you go through this.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is what it takes for that to happen,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And yes, it was pushed because of someone that I love and care about. But it was a necessary push for me personally, you know, and we went in and we made our reports together. Obviously separate because they're separate situations, but we were in the same room together. We were, you know, hand in hand. Like it was, we did this, right? And a few days, few weeks, however it went, they got a phone call. Oh, this is what we've got. You know, this is the police calling. So, would you like to prosecute? That's another. Take your time. You don't have to answer. But when you have an answer, let us know. Like, you don't have to move forward.
Right. Right.
And fortunately, there is no statute of limitation.
Yes.
So, whether it was 15 years ago or 1,000 years ago, doesn't matter.
Exactly.
You call us when you're ready.
And on that note, we're going to end our part 1 of our series with Christine Jones.
Yes.